Aloha, hello, and welcome to this new episode of Touchful Podcast. This one will be about prayer. Prayer as a practice of building intimacy with oneself, intimacy with the world, intimacy with the divine, building trust and deep connection with oneself and with the world. I want to share with you my perspective on prayer, how I pray, what it even means for me to pray. And I want to share with you a couple of my favorite prayers. So I wonder, well, where this episode will take me today and where will it take all of us. But before I dive deeper into the topic of prayer and what it even is for me and how I understand it, I would like us to have a moment of a heart-to-heart connection, like we always do at the beginning of every episode. So I invite you to put your hand over your heart. Close your eyes if it feels good and if it feels safe. Feel your hand over your heart. And take a breath. Deep, beautiful, slow and steady inhale through your nose. And exhale through your mouth. And once more, and feel that the breath comes through your heart, as if the inhale and exhale were through your heart. And from this place of breathing through your heart, I invite you to recognize that you are not alone, that my heart is here as well, and that our hearts are connected in this very moment. They are connected by this very now. And that you can take inhale in your heart and exhale in my heart. And again, inhaling in your heart and exhaling in my heart. You can feel or imagine that our hearts are connected with an invisible string, that I speak some words, I say something in English, but under that, it is a conversation that happens between my heart and your heart. And I trust that both our hearts will take the most from this conversation today. And I hope, and nomen omen, I pray that this episode today will inspire your heart, and it will inspire my heart to open up more, to love more, to be more free, to be more trusting and caring, to touch the world and let the world touch you. Welcome to this episode of Touchful Podcast, and I am extremely touched and happy and grateful that you are here and that I can speak with you today about something super tender and very intimate, which is praying, a practice of prayer, and how I understand it and how I do it and how it connects me more to myself and connects me more to life. And I would like to start with sharing my perspective on what prayer is. So, I grew up in a Catholic household. My parents were never like super religious, but religion, Catholic religion, was definitely present in my life when I was a child and when I was a teenager. And I remember that when I was little, I would often spend the afternoons or sometimes evenings, and I would stay over for the night with my grandma. And she was the one who taught me to pray in this Catholic sense, saying all the prayers, like, prayers to the Lord and to Jesus and to my guardian angel. And I would do it because that's something that my grandma would make me do, or she would teach me to do that she would teach me that would be something important to do. Then I had a moment in my life when I abandoned religion, when I stopped identifying myself as a Catholic. And that is also the moment when I completely stopped praying, because I stopped going to church and I stopped practicing all the Catholic rituals that you would normally practice at home, like maybe praying in the morning or in the evening or before a meal and so on and so forth. So there was a time in my life when I completely stopped praying, and I associated prayer with something that I was completely against, because I felt that I was so against religion. So even the very word prayer would trigger me very much, and I would associate it with the religion and with the institution that I didn't want to be a part of. And the prayer came back to me, came back to my life when I started my spiritual journey many years ago. But I still would not call it a prayer until some years back. I remember I went to mantra evening, and we were just like a gathering, a group of people, we were singing mantras, and in between the mantras, the person who was leading that, he was having like small lectures and sharing like bits and pieces of wisdom and of the wisdom of his heart and his perspective on things. And I don't remember absolutely anything except one sentence that he said. And that sentence was, "Make your life a prayer, not a performance. Make your life a prayer, not a performance." And I remember how this sentence really touched me. And I started to think, what does it even mean to make my life a prayer? How does even one do that? Is it even possible? What does it even mean? And I didn't find the answer back then, but I feel that on that evening, many years ago, a seed of prayer was planted in me, and I would remember that sentence on many occasions when I would feel, or I would ask myself, is it a prayer now or is it performance? Am I being true and honest and authentic and connected to myself and to life, or am I faking something? And that is when my understanding of prayer, what it means to live in prayer, to be a prayer, to make my life a prayer, that is when it started to emerge. So a prayer for me is an act, a moment, a practice that connects me deeper to life itself, that it connects me deeper to my own heart and to my own truth. It is an act, it is a practice, it is a moment that reminds me the true nature of myself and the true nature of things, which I believe is love. And I believe that at the bottom of everything is love, and that we were made in love and as love and out of love, and we are all in our deepest core love. Some people call it God, some people call it universe or source or higher self or something more. You can call it whatever you want, whatever works for you. By the way, I believe that this episode will be a valuable one both for people who are religious and they consider themselves a part of certain religion, as well as for people who don't consider themselves religious at all, but they feel or believe that there is something more to life than just this material plan. So like I said, I started to see and understand and practice prayer as something that very often makes me stop for a moment, makes me stop the rush, and makes me realize my true nature, my beauty, my innocence. So in that sense, a prayer is not an act of conversation between me and some external force, which is how I understood a prayer when I was little, when I was a child, and I would pray to Jesus or to angels. It felt like some sort of a conversation between me and something that is outside of me, between me and the God that is outside of me. And now, at this moment of my spiritual journey, I don't even want to say that I believe. I know that the source, God, love, universe, higher self, whatever you want to call it, that it's not anything that is outside of me, that in fact nothing is outside of me. So a prayer, it feels like coming back home to my core, to my heart, to my center, to my truth. It feels like in the act of prayer, I remember what really is important in life. I get things in the right perspective. And when you define prayer like this, like I did right now, ultimately, everything can become a prayer. Hence this sentence, make your life a prayer, not a performance. Because everything that you do, you can do it with an intention of prayer. So with an intention of me being connected to myself, to my truth, to my heart, to my core, to love, to beauty, to innocence. Or you can do it with disconnection from that, or the illusion of disconnection. The illusion of disconnection from your own innocence. And then it feels like a performance. And I speak from experience, been there, done that. Ultimately, it really feels very often to me that on this deepest level, it doesn't matter so much what I do, but it matters where from it comes. It matters what intention I put to everything that I do. Do I put an intention of prayer, deep, intimate connection with life? Or do I put an intention of performance, coming out of fear, of this illusion, of this fantasy that I need to be something else that I am in order to be deserving this life, in order to be loved, in order to be happy? So if we put it like this, everything can be a prayer or a performance. Recording this podcast can be a prayer or a performance. Washing the dishes, playing with your dog, playing with your child, having a conversation with a colleague at work, doing groceries, eating a meal. A prayer to me feels like remembering that I am blessed, remembering that I am sacred, remembering that I am a prayer, and bringing this remembrance to whatever I do. And it certainly is a practice to be able to hold oneself in so much presence and in so much love. And it's not the point of being able to do it all the time. I think it's not even the point of being able to do it for most of the time. If you have 5 minutes during your day that really feels like a prayer, then you are a blessed person to have these 5 minutes and recognize them as a prayer. And when I define prayer like this, then, for example, my morning meditations are my prayers. It is this time when I wake up quite early, before I even turn on my phone, before I even speak to another person. I pray. Normally I would say that I meditate, but my meditation is my prayer. It is my time to remember my own nature, my own sacredness, and the sacredness of the moment. Another example of me being in prayer recognizing myself as a prayer, recognizing the other as a prayer, and the moment itself as a moment of prayer is, of course, in my case, when I practice Lomi Lomi. Not always, not every time, not every session, but there are sessions that are prayers. In Hawaiian tradition, the Lomi Lomi massage, it is very often described as a prayer, that the massage itself is a prayer. And again, it doesn't mean that I pray to somebody, to something that is external, that I ask for something, that I pray for something. Just the very act of me doing this practice is the act of prayer. And there are definitely sessions when I can feel that, where the session feels like, again, I could use the word meditation, where the session feels like I'm in deep state of meditation, being connected with my own heart, with my wisdom, being connected with the source and recognizing the source in me, recognizing the love in me. I could use the word meditation for that some Lomi sessions are like meditations for me. And I know that certainly some of my clients would use this word as well, that some sessions are like meditations for them. But I could also use the word prayer, that some sessions feel like a prayer, like a remembrance of sacredness, my sacredness, your sacredness, and sacredness of this very moment that happens in the session. So if you are a Lomi Lomi receiver, or maybe you are a practitioner, I wonder how this lands in you. How would you approach the session, whether you receive it or you do it? If you approached it with an intention of it being a prayer, if you meditate, then how would you feel about your meditation if you approached it with an intention that it is a prayer of remembrance, a prayer of love, a prayer of connection, deep, intimate connection with life itself, with yourself, with the source that is in you, not anywhere outside you. And you can certainly take that pattern and apply it to anything that you want. If you prepare food for yourself or for your family, how would you feel about making this food, knowing that what you do right now is not just preparing food, it is a prayer for yourself and for all the people who would eat this food? If you are a bus driver, how would you approach your work, knowing and feeling that what you do is not merely driving a bus, but you can approach it from a perspective of a prayer? This is a prayer. Deep, intimate connection to life itself. And you can approach every situation like this. There are definitely situations that are easier for us to approach as prayers, and there are some situations that I don't see as prayers at all. I just don't see a prayer there. Which doesn't mean that the prayer is not there. It means that I feel so disconnected, usually because I feel angry or scared or doubtful or hurt or rejected or whatever, that I don't see a prayer there. But it doesn't mean that the prayer is not there, because life itself is a prayer. Your every heartbeat is a prayer. So that's the first part of today's episode that I invite you to contemplate on. The moments of your life that feel like a prayer, the moments of your life that feel like a performance, the moments of your life where you feel like a prayer, and where could you apply more of that? And in the second part of today's episode, I would like to share with you my 5 favorite prayers, 5 favorite practices that immediately, and I mean within 5 seconds, they help me to connect to the prayer of life, to the everlasting, loving stream of life, and to feel that I am this, that I am a part of this, to recognize the sacredness of my life, the sacredness of this moment. And 4 of these prayers, these short prayers, are with words, and one of them is without words. And I would like to start with this one, which is without words, and it really takes around 5 seconds. And it's my favorite prayer, and it goes like this. That's it. One breath as a prayer. How would you take your breath if you wanted to take it with an intention of this breath being a prayer of love, a prayer of life, a prayer of sacredness and beauty and divinity? One of my Lomi teachers, she would often say, make every breath a prayer. And what I invite you today is just make this one breath a prayer. Make your next breath a prayer. And how would this breath be different from every other breath, thousands of breaths that you take every day, millions of breaths that you've taken? How would you take your next breath, knowing and feeling that it is a prayer, making it into a prayer? That is certainly a beautiful practice, a practice that immediately shifts awareness and changes something deeply in me. So you can check with yourself what it changes in you. My second favorite 5-second prayer, or even less, is one short sentence, 2 words, which are thank you, thank you. I remember that I read it somewhere a long time ago. It's probably a famous quote of somebody that if you could only have one prayer until the end of your life, let it be thank you. And it is certainly a prayer that is easy to practice when we say thank you for all the amazing and beautiful things that happened for us. But still, don't let it deceive you. You can say thank you from a place of total disconnection and not allowing yourself to take something as a gift. Or you can say thank you with an intention of it being a prayer of love, a prayer of connection, a prayer for life and the sacredness of life. So that is a beautiful practice and fairly easy to do with when we mean to say thank you for example, something that somebody did for us. They did us a favor, they gave us a gift, they gave us a smile. Say thank you, but say it with an intention of this thank you being a prayer, and see what changes. And then far more difficult practice is to pray with thank you in the moments that are difficult, in the moments that don't feel like a gift. And I remember a couple of moments like this in my life when I was on my knees, sometimes literally on my knees, and crying my eyes out because something horrible happened and my heart was broken. And sometimes, if I was lucky enough, in the middle of this crisis and in the middle of this heartbreaking situation, I would remember that this is a prayer. Thank you is a full and complete prayer. And I had moments in my life when I would say, thank you. I don't understand why it is happening. I don't get it. It hurts. I don't like it. But thank you. I say thank you with an intention of a prayer. Thank you. I know that it happens for me. I trust that it happens for me. I choose to believe that it happens for me. So thank you. Even if I don't like it, even if I hate it, even if I don't understand it, even if I want to ask why me, I say thank you. And this is far more difficult. And sometimes for me it is impossible in the moment of heartbreak, hardship, difficulty, to say that prayer truly, deeply, with an intention of my heart. But I do my best to practice it, to say thank you for whatever happens to me, because I trust that I am made of love and that this world in its nature is loving. So I want to believe that whatever happens, it happens for me, not to me. And that makes a difference. A third prayer that I love practicing, and you hear me saying it often. This time it's 3 words. I love you. I love you. That's it. I love you. It's a full and complete prayer. And I make sure that I want to say it like I mean it, and I want to say it like a prayer. I say I love you often. You can hear me saying it on a podcast. You can hear me saying it often on my social media. I say it often to people, but I don't take it lightly. These are huge words for me. It's a big and beautiful and powerful prayer to say I love you. And one of the most powerful practices that you can do is to stand in front of a mirror, look into your eyes, and pray with these words, saying to yourself, I love you. And if you say this with an intention of this being a prayer, deep, intimate connection with your own heart and with life itself, then it will change you. Because that's the nature of every prayer. It changes the reality, which is, by the way, scientifically proven. Scientists measure what happens with people when they pray, what happens in rooms where people pray, where people meditate. And it changes the energy that can be measured, changes in these people and in these places. So the power of a prayer is real, and definitely the power of I love you prayer is very, very real. Another one of my 5-second prayers, the one that touches me deeply and the one that really cracks me open so very often and connects me deeply to my own truth and to love itself and to life itself, is the prayer of 2 words. Use me. Use me. I say it very often. Even before recording this episode today, I had this short prayer. Life, love, God, universe, whatever, use me. Use me, use my voice, use my life in the best and most kind and loving way, in the way that will be for the betterment of myself, for all the people who listen to this podcast and for the whole world. Use me. This is also my short prayer before every Lomi session. Use me. I give myself in the loving hands of this practice that I do, and I say, use me. Use my hands. Use my body. Use my life. Use my voice. Use my heart. Use me. And it definitely feels like the human part of me, the ego, the human, is surrendering and trusting and giving myself to the highest power, to the most loving highest power of the universe. So I know that I can say this prayer with full trust, because when I surrender to life and I say to life, use me, I know that it will use me in the best possible way. In the best possible way for myself, for other people, for my family, for my clients, for my students, for strangers on the street, and in the best possible way for all living beings, animals and plants, all living beings and the planet itself. That's how I choose to see it. That's what I choose to believe in when I say this prayer. And I invite you to pray like this. You can put your hand over your heart. Lean back a little bit. Let your back rest against the sofa or the chair. Feel that you can rest and that you are being held. And it helps to feel being physically held by a chair or a sofa. and feel that in that you are being held by something far greater, by the loving hands that know you. You are being held by the power that knows you because it created you, because you are it. And from that place, you can just safely, beautifully surrender and say, use me, use my life, use my voice, use my talents, use my gifts, use my hands, my eyes, my voice, use my body, use my mind, use me, make a use of me, the best use, the one that I could never imagine. Use me. It's a huge prayer, a powerful prayer, a beautiful one, and extremely powerful one, in my case at least. And the last short and powerful prayer that I want to share with you today is the one that maybe I should start with, because it's the essential one, the one that goes before everything else. And that is a prayer of reminding yourself, saying to yourself, saying to the world, I am. I am. It is a prayer of a heart, the heartbeat. I am. I am. It is a prayer of your breath in the rhythm. I am. I am. And it is a prayer that immediately, and I mean immediately, connects me to life. So I say it very often to myself when I feel disconnected, when I feel lost, when I feel like I don't know what to do, when I feel overwhelmed, when I don't feel myself, I don't feel my own heart. I just usually put a hand over my heart. That is my way to pray as well, to touch my heart. And I say, I am. I am. But da 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 da, and then my mind starts to do. I am. I am. And that immediately changes something in me. Today in the morning, I received really heartbreaking news, devastating, tragic news. And as I was listening to the voice note that a friend of mine left on Messenger, she was saying the words and I could feel like the numbness, and that I couldn't believe what she was saying, and that it was so tragic and so devastating. And then I put the phone aside, and I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't make sense out of it. And in moments like this, I often have tendencies to run away into some compulsive behaviors. When I feel numb or overwhelmed, I quite often tend to go to compulsive behaviors. But what I learned, that instead of that, in moments that feel too much to say anything else, in moments when I don't remember anything, I don't even remember my own name, I remember this: I am. I am. I am. And when I said it to myself a couple of times this morning, I started to feel my own heart, my own love, my own sorrow, my own emotions, myself coming back to me, myself connecting more to life, just with this very simple reminder: I am. And yes, certainly I very often add something extra after these words. So very often I would say, I am, and then I would maybe add, I am love, or I am available for miracles, or I am a gift, or I am the woman of my dreams, or whatever. I would make it into an affirmation, into a beautiful sentence that I want to remember. But this is secondary. What comes first is I am. It's the deepest and most powerful prayer that I know, because it's the recognition that I am. As life, I exist. And without me, there wouldn't be anything. I am. I am. And just this is so very touching for me. So often when I pray like this, when I remind myself that I am, suddenly some of my problems I start to see them in a little bit different perspective. So I come back to that prayer relentlessly, especially when I feel like I am caught in a downward spiral of fear or doubt or disconnection or feeling small, unwanted, rejected, and so on and so forth. First of all, I am. You are, Magdalena. You are. I am. So these are my prayers and my contemplations that I wanted to give you today. And I feel that it's quite a lot in this episode, quite a lot to feel into, to contemplate. Maybe you feel inspired by some things, maybe you feel triggered by some things. All this is perfectly fine. And if you would like to share some of your thoughts about today's episode, then as always, I invite you to check the description. There is an email address of mine, and you are very welcome to contact me with your contemplations, with the stories of your heart, with your prayers, with your thoughts. I love you dearly, and I speak it as a deep prayer from my heart, from my belly. I love you dearly. Thank you so much for spending a moment of your life with me, and I look forward to speaking with you next time. Aloha and bye-bye.